Hey friends, it's Carmen. Thank you for watching and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with the case of Chris Watts and the tragic story of Shanann Watts and her two little girls, Cece and Bella. Now disclaimer, because I usually don't cover cases with kids that involve kids. Anything that has to do with kids and animals is a very sensitive subject to me, but this case impacted me so much. I want to talk about it. It's just a reminder of how you really think you know some people, but you don't. It's a reminder of why we have to be careful. It's a reminder of why it's better for you to walk away from relationships and marriages that are toxic, that can be abusive, that can be just not it anymore. That when a person tells you that they no longer love you, it's better to just walk away and go separate ways and go on with your lives for the safety of everybody, because certain situations can get the worst out of people, and this is one of those cases. As I talk about this case, today I'm feeling very fall vibes, even though we're still like in plain hot summer. I don't know why, I just got the burnt orange fall vibe today, because this is makeup and crime. Today I'm gonna be getting ready with the Too Faced Extra Spicy Gingerbread Palette. And it's just such a beautiful, perfect fall neutral tone. It's beautiful. And to go with the theme, we're going to be using their Too Faced Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. And my favorite customized blush. This one was originally a body bronzer, but I made it into a customized blush because I'm very particular on the tones of the blush. So this whole jar here is just pure blush. Oh, and it smells delicious. I like tore this off so I can like customize it, but this is my big bin of my favorite blush, and it's huge, and it's gonna take me ages to finish it, but that's okay. Comes with a little puff. I just leave it in there just because like it's cute. But I figured I don't use body bronzer, but I really want this big thing of gingerbread. Like it's just perfect. It's just perfect. And they're amazing liquid lipsticks. And without further ado, let's get into this case. On August 13 of 2018, a woman makes a call to the police in Colorado. She is very, very concerned because her friend of the name Shanann Watts is missing. Now, at this point of the call, she has only been missing for a few hours. The thing is that it wasn't like Shanann not to answer text messages or calls, especially because Nicole was one of her best friends. Now, just so we don't get confused, there's two Nicoles in this case. And it sucks, the irony of it, because one of them is her best friend and the other one was the mistress of Shanann's husband. So we'll keep referring to her as Shanann's friend Nicole, okay? Capiche? Capiche. The reason why Shanann's friend already had a feeling that something was off was because not only was it not normal for Shanann not to answer her calls or texts, but also because she was actually supposed to drive her to Shanann's gynecologist appointment because Shanann was pregnant. I believe she was about 4 to 5 months far into her pregnancy. She was expecting a baby boy who she had already planned to name Nico. When the police arrive, obviously Shanann's friend starts telling them that it's just not like her. Not only not to answer her calls or texts, but also because she was supposed to drive her to her gynecologist appointment. Mind you, by this time, Shanann's friend had already gone to the gynecologist clinic to see if Shanann was already there. And at the clinic, the receptionist had told her that she never made it to her appointment. Because it's important for everybody to see why Shanann's friend was already at 100. Like, she was already, something's wrong. Like, she already knew something had happened to Shanann. The police are trying to help Shanann's friend figure out what happened to Shanann. And for this, they are trying to get a hold of Chris Watts, who's Shanann's husband, and who happens to be at work. And so they call him, they let him know what's going on. The friend is super frantic. She's asking him if he knew the whereabouts of Shanann. He said no, that when he left, Shanann was still in the house along with the girls. So now at this point, Shanann and the girls are missing. And so Shanann's friend lets him know that police are already there, which it's later known by another one of Shanann's friends that Chris actually did not want to get the police involved. While Chris is on his way back home, they get a hold of Shanann's parents. They ask them if they knew anything about Shanann, and Shanann's mom actually lets them know that when she called Chris about the whereabouts of Shanann, Chris had told them that Shanann was with a girlfriend. Now remember, when the police were already present, all Chris said is that Shanann and the girls were still in the house when he left to work in the morning, like early in the morning. He never mentioned anything about a girlfriend. He said that to her parents. So why didn't he just say that also to the police and her friend in that moment, right? Shit's already not adding up, and we're just getting started. The police and the friend are talking to Shanann's parents over the phone. They're trying to get their permission to break into the house, but they can't really do that because the only homeowners are Shanann and Chris. And so they have to wait until Chris gets back home. And when he gets there, you guys, he just goes straight into the house like it's another Tuesday. Like, he's not like, have you heard anything yet? What are the updates? Nah, he just comes in and opens the house, and the police ask him for permission to come in, and he lets them in. And the friend doesn't even ask, y'all, that this woman, God bless her heart, because it is thanks to her that everybody got moving, okay, for Shanann and her girls. She didn't even ask, y'all. She went in there like it was her house, okay? She was there to look for her friends, okay? The police searched the house, and they asked Chris, is anything missing? Like, do you see anything out of the ordinary here? Is there anything of concern that you might think this is odd? And he's like, no. And then he just goes, some sheets are missing. Like, he says that the girls' bed sheets are missing, and so he tries to make it seem like a couple of things are missing, like as if like Shanann went on a quick trip, right? Now, the friend is not buying any of this BS, okay? Because remember, Shanann had an appointment, okay? Shanann's friend Nicole ain't playing any of this bullshit, okay? She's not buying any of it. Like, she's in there and she's on a mission. She's looking for clues, she's looking for signs, and she's searching, y'all, and she finds Shanann's purse with Shanann's medications, because Shanann did have a medical condition called lupus, and she relied on her medication. Like, if she was to be taking a quick trip, she would be taking her medications along with her purse and her medication. Shanann's phone was also there, and just that situation itself just gave Shanann's friend a very ugly sinking feeling. Like, Shanann's friend just had a feeling that something was very, very wrong, and unfortunately she was right. The police continue to question Chris. They're asking him, what was the last conversation you guys had? Did you guys have a disagreement? This and that. And he actually admits that yes, that in fact they did. He says that they had a conversation about how his feelings were changing for her and how they just weren't understanding each other. He pretty much told her that his feelings were just not there, that it just wasn't working out for them anymore. So now he's suggesting that maybe she took off with the girls, because Shanann figured, well, he doesn't love me anymore, so it just makes sense to leave, right? Like, she's gonna leave her whole home, the stability of her children, just because this guy says he doesn't love her anymore. I guess that just makes sense in his head for some reason. At this point, Shanann's neighbors are involved. They had some really close neighbors, and there was one specifically, and he was the first one to call out Chris. Like, he was the first one to tell police he's not acting right. And this happens because they're trying to check the surveillance cameras that were in Shanann's home. And as they're trying to do that, Chris is like pacing back and forth, and he's getting very nervous, and he's getting very talkative, and he just won't stop talking.
You just want to go talk to him? I'm going to get his info real quick. No.
He's never fidgety, he's never rocking back and forth, and if you look.
And when they check the surveillance, all they see is Chris backing his truck up into the garage. And if you pay attention to Chris's demeanor, you can kind of see a sigh of relief, because that's all they can see. So then Chris steps away, and that's when the neighbor says to the police, he's not acting right. He's not acting like himself. And then the police tells him, like, well, why do you think that? And he's like, he's a very quiet guy. He's very to himself. He never talks. He doesn't really ever have much to say, and right now he just won't stop talking. He won't stop pacing back and forth. He's really nervous. And the officer tries to, like, give him the benefit of the doubt and tell him, yeah, well, his wife is missing. And so the neighbor was like, well, yeah, but he's not buying it. He's not buying it. Like, the neighbor's like, something is not right.
Now the next clip I'm gonna play for you guys, it's kind of creepy. Well, it's actually really creepy for the circumstances they were all found. It's just so coincidental, but a lot of people think it was Shanann trying to tell them what Chris did with them. And I just think it's crazy because it's literally a spot-on representation of exactly what happened to them. And at first we see a fetus that is clearly still in the mother's womb, which clearly reminds Chris of Shanann's pregnancy, and he lets the officers know that Shanann was actually pregnant, which to me is logic that reminded him of such thing. But to me, the creepy part is the following images, which is a huge explosion following the little baby's image. And then the creepiest part for me is how we see like a skull's face coming out of what seems to be like oil or petroleum, which again, given the circumstances and the conditions that the two little girls were found and what happened to Shanann and her baby, is just crazy.
She's pregnant as well. How far along? 14, 15 weeks.
So So now they report Shanann and her girls missing, and they're on a search for her, and they're trying to look for her. But little by little, things are just not heading up with Chris and his statement and how he's acting and everything. And so on the first day, it just pretty much stays like that, like Shanann and her girls are missing. They're trying to see all possibilities, whether, you know, she really had a, you know, mental breakdown and she just took her girls and left. And of course, everything is possible, right? Like, before getting to know that somebody turned out to be the victim, you have to keep your mind open that everything is possible, because indeed, people can have mental breakdowns, especially if they're spouses of 8 years, by the way, because they were married for, well, they weren't married for 8 years, but they were together for 8 years. I believe they were married for like 5 or 6. It's still a long time. Like, to me, it counts since you're with the person. A piece of paper does not define anything. Like, to me, it's since you meet the person and you start to build something, it counts from there. Whatever years you were in a relationship before marriage, it's the amount of years that took to build that relationship to get to marriage. So to me, everything counts. So 8 years. So of course, that's something devastating to pretty much anybody. At this point, an investigation is open. They're trying to figure out what happened to Shanann, where she is, and the media gets a hold of the story. So the next day, a couple of media sources come to Chris's house and start asking him all kinds of questions. They're pretty much trying to see what they can get out of this guy. Chris not only repeats what he's been saying over and over, he starts to suggest that somebody might have taken Shanann and her girls. And he starts to say that what he fears is that they might not be safe, that they might be somewhere unsafe, and that if anybody has them and they're unsafe, that he just wants them back, that he misses them, that he can't imagine his life without them, that those girl smiles are his world, it lightens up his world, his life, his existence, whatever. And Chris's neighbor tells him, yeah, I don't think you should be doing media, honestly, because remember, you were the last one that saw her. You were the last one that spoke to her, so I really don't think you should be doing media. That neighbor now says that he's very thankful that Chris never listened to him. He's very thankful that he did do media, because Chris says so many things in the media that he ended up making himself look like a real suspect, like sus, AF, as fuck, sus. And because of that, police turned their eyes on him and then called him in to be questioned for him to give his statement, his version of events, what he thinks happened. Now, part of the interrogation involved a polygraph test. He agreed to take, because he had nothing to hide, right? And in the polygraph test, he's being asked if he had anything to do with Shanann's disappearance, if he knew the whereabouts of Shanann, if he physically had disappeared Shanann, which obviously to everything he answered no. He fails this polygraph test. One thing I noticed a lot of people were not happy with so much, and they were kind of upset about, they suggested that they almost talked to him as if he was a toddler, like kind of like super friendly, super nice. But you have to keep in mind, when suspects are being questioned, a lot of times part of their strategy is playing like your friend, like, I'm just here to try to help you out, like try to help you figure this out, like it's okay, we're gonna help you get through this. Like, it's part of their strategy, guys. They play mind games with you, like they don't give a crap about you. If you're a suspect, all they want is for you to just say what you know, so that they can just resolve the case and close it. Don't think that they want to be doing this. Like, this is their jobs. At the end of the day, they have so many cases that what they want to do is resolve them. So part of the strategy is playing your friend. They got the man pizza, for God's sake. Like, they gave this man a few slices of pizza while he was being questioned, okay? Remember, all of this is part of the strategy. They gotta treat you like a human being, like a friend, right? That's a strategy that a lot of detectives use. A lot of them, they use the threats, you know, the I know what you know because I know, you know, like mind games. A lot of them have their own style and their own strategy, and for this case specifically, they used the I'm your friend and I'm just here to help you out strategy, okay? And it worked, okay? It worked because this guy literally confessed within that first questioning. He confessed everything because he failed the polygraph test. So he confessed, but not before trying to drag Shanann through the mud. This piece of crap had it in for her already. Like, by the way, while he was eating that pizza, remember I told you everything is a strategy. They were watching him. They were watching him and they were trying to see his reaction, and they saw how he was like just comfortably eating that pizza like nothing. Now, when you're genuinely concerned about the well-being and safety of your kids and your wife, that you think somebody snatched, because that's what you're making people think that you think, right? For most people, right, their normal reaction is lack of appetite, because they don't know their well-being, they don't know about their whereabouts, they don't know what can possibly be happening to them. If they're hungry, if they might be suffering, I don't know. just my personal intake, just know that he was being watched while he was eating his pizza. After he fails the polygraph test, the detective just straight up tells him, okay, you failed, it's time to talk. Like, she just goes straight forward to that, like, okay, you failed, it's time to talk. It's clear that you know something that you haven't said, and it's just, you're better off just talking, because the faster you confess, the faster all this goes through, you know? And for a little bit, Chris tries to play it off, like, I don't know, I didn't lie on anything, I don't know why the polygraph test. Like, keep in mind always, you guys, I hope anybody that is watching, none of you guys end up in a position where you are a suspect and you are questioned. Keep in mind that there is no way of fooling detectives. You may try to keep the truth as much as possible, especially if there's no evidence. Don't forget that a requirement for them to get where they are is studying psychology, and they know how to read you. They already know all kinds of behaviors. They have names for the different behaviors that suspects take when they're guilty. They already know how to identify when somebody's lying. I'm pretty sure since the moment they called him in, they already knew that he knew something he wasn't saying. But of course, they can't say that because their job is to get you to confess. After a while, it gets draining because of course, like, he's already been there hours and hours and hours. He seems like he's borderline almost to cry already. He says he's ready to confess, but first he has to talk to his dad. He calls back home to his parents' house and his mom answers. He tells him that he needs his dad. And so his dad goes down to the station and he sits down, and first Chris wants to confess to him what happened, right? And so Chris tries to say, okay, this is Chris' first story. Well, second. This is Chris' like second attempt to make up a story. He says that he walked into his girl's bedroom and Shanann had just suffocated them. And that he just lost it and he blacked out. And so that he had to kill her now because Shanann killed his girls. Okay? That's the story he tries to give to detectives after he talks to his dad or whatever, okay? So of course, because at this point, what was really important for detectives is to find their bodies ASAP, because finding the bodies as soon as possible is going to play a huge role in knowing what really happened. And so they play along and they're like, okay, Chris, okay, you lost it, you know, it happens, you know, everybody blacks out once in a while, it happened. You did what you thought you had to do. Okay, now tell us where you buried them. Tell us where you left the bodies. And so he starts telling them that he took them to this oil field that was actually one of the routes that the company he worked for owned. So he said that he took them to this field. He buried Shanann in a shallow grave, and that he threw the body of his 3-year-old Cece and his 4-year-old Bella into an oil tank. Not about you, but the first thing that would come to my mind is, if Shanann did this to the girls and you ended up feeling it, now you have to kill Shanann because he just killed your daughters, why would you dispose of all of their bodies if Shanann was the problem? Wouldn't you be like in a certain state of grief because you just realized your girls were murdered? You just killed their murderer out of rage, so then it would be logic to just tell the police what happened, just to make sure that they knew what happened. I don't know, instead of going out of your way to hide all of their bodies. And well, he panicked. He panicked because he was worried that he was going to get blamed for everything, because of course, right? So he panicked, and what he did is that he drove them all 45 to 50 minutes away from home into this oil field and discarded their bodies. Now, by the time he got this whole story through, it was already day 3. So they go into this field and search for their bodies, and sure enough, they find Shanann's body in the shallow grave that he had described, and they start searching into the oil tanks to try to retrieve the bodies of little Cece and little Bella. And of course, this is one of the most traumatizing. My heart also goes out to the whole team that had to like do all that, because I can even imagine, like, that's something that's gonna stay with them forever, because they have to see all of this. It took hours for them to be able to retrieve their little bodies back, and these little babies were in the oil tank for 3 days, and with the heat and all the conditions that an oil field will bring you to, you can only imagine in what conditions they found them in. I just don't know how this man was able to do all that without skipping a beat, because those were his babies, and in a way I'm glad Shanann didn't get to see or know any of this. It's just very dark. It's just very dark. Now, obviously, they don't believe Chris what happened, okay? It just, none of it that makes sense, okay? Especially Shanann's friend, Nicole. Like, she does not believe at all this stupid little story of Chris saying that Shanann suffocated her own girls and then he felt like now he had to kill her. Like, it's not making sense. Obviously, none of Shanann's family believes that either, because they know Shanann. And before I go forward, I wanna shed light into Shanann, because she's like the most worth person to talk about in this case. Shanann was just one bad bitch, okay? She was a boss lady. She was not here in this world to play around. She was here to make shit happen, and she was here to, like, she once told her parents to leave her mark on this earth. She was a go-getter. By the age of 26, she had already built her own dream house, okay, by the age of 26. Of course, she eventually sold this house and they ended up moving into something else as she got married with Chris. But by age 26, okay, and before her passing, she was like an ambassador of this company called Thrive. And she was such a badass salesperson that she even earned a Lexus SUV, because she was just that. She was just that girl. And to what I got, like, their financial situation got better because of her. And she was known to be this beautiful, sweet, kind, caring person, but also a leader. And she was genuinely a girl's girl, okay? She was trying to get other women, you know, to be their own bosses, jump into the wagon, be the best version of them. I feel like it's really important for me to let you know the quality of person she was, because Chris does try to drag her through the mud. And it's really sad because there was like these Facebook groups that were happening while the whole trial and the whole case was happening in that time. And these women were pretty much like saying that she pretty much deserved what happened to her, which, like, I can't comprehend that part. Like, it's too evil to... These women that I come across in these cases that are like supporters of the murderer, they generally concern me, because the fact that there's women out there really defending these murderers, these monsters, right? It's concerning, because it's clear that their mental health is not good, that they genuinely need help. And Chris tries to make her seem like she was like a bitch, that she was like this, like, pushy, high demanding woman. And no, it's just that she was a boss lady and she needed people to be on her shit, because that's how it is. That's why she was a successful saleswoman. You know how hard it is to be a successful ambassador, and these brands such as like Thrive, Avon, Mary Kay, all these brands, like, I 1000% rather work a 9-to-5 job than to become an ambassador, like a brand ambassador that would pretty much have to rely on people trusting me and, I don't know, going to door. I wouldn't be able to do it, honestly. She needed that boss energy to be reciprocated, and it makes sense. Now, of course, they're doing autopsies on the two little girls and on Shanann, right? To confirm Chris' story, right? While they're doing this, in questioning, they have this woman by the name of Nicole Kessinger. And this is the second Nicole that turns out to be Chris's mistress that I was telling you about. Why do they have her on questioning? Well, Miss Kessinger here thought she was really doing something by coming forward, letting them know that she was actually having an affair with Chris Watts. Now, by this time, police already knew this because they had already called Chris's job. They had already investigated the whole situation. They wanted to find motives because they want to get the story straight. So this lady here really thought she was doing something by coming forward. She wanted to tell her story, right? And if you watch the interview, right, the questions that they're asking her, she's trying to come off as like this cool, chill girl who just happened to end up involved in this sticky situation. Somebody who like didn't know but did know about like Chris and Shanann's situation. Like, first she claims that for the longest time she didn't know Shanann's name and stuff like that, and after they did like a whole extensive search of her history, it turns out that she actually had been searching Shanann's name even before she ever got to meet Chris, which we're gonna go back to that because I think that's I don't know, that's weird. She's telling them that at this point she's concerned that Chris might have done something to them. This is why she's coming forward, because she wants it to be known that they had an affair and that, you know, whatever is going on, she had nothing to do with it, right? She's trying to make that clear, but without really saying it. While they're questioning, in the 3 autopsies, they find that Shanann was actually strangled to death and she's the one that passed away first. And in the girls' autopsies, it was also determined that they were indeed passed away from suffocation. But now Chris's story is not adding up, because he said that the reason why he felt like he had to strangle Shanann was because she had suffocated their girl. So now that's not adding up. So now they get Chris back into questioning and they ask him and they let him know. So what you just said that happened, so we know that that's not what happened, and now we need you to tell us the truth, because at this point we're done playing games with you. You know, we are so done with you. Just tell us what happened and we can just go on with, everybody can go on with their day. And so they offer him a plea deal. And so now he starts confessing what really happened. Half-assed, but what pretty much happened. He said that upon Shanann's arrival, they started getting to a discussion because he let her know of the affair that he was having with Nicole, and that he didn't love her no more, and that he was ready for divorce. And that supposedly Shanann, and I'm saying supposedly, okay, because this is just a story and you let me know what you believe, right? But supposedly, here I go again, right? Shanann got really upset and she told him that he will never see his kids again. So that's when he lost it. That's when he lost it, and he went on top of her. They struggled, and then he ended up strangling her, right? And in that moment, as he just finished strangling her, he starts to wrap up her body in some sheets, some blankets, right? And as he's doing that, little Cece and Bella walk into him wrapping his mommy up, and they start asking what was he doing with mommy, and he said that mommy was gonna be all right, that she wasn't feeling well, blah blah blah, that they had to go somewhere. So then he backs his truck into the garage and then loads Shanann into the truck's floor. And so this is really sick, you guys, because he brings the girls along with him, and this whole time they're like sitting with their mom laid on the car's floor. And this is a 45 to 50 minute drive, you guys. So this whole time these little girls are there, their mom is not responsive. I can't help to think that they were calling her name, trying to get her to wake up and stuff like that while they were on the drive, and she's just unresponsive. When they get there, he says that he first suffocates little Cece, and little Cece didn't even struggle. Little Cece was only 3 years old, you guys. And that little Bella asked him if he was gonna do the same thing to her that he did to little Cece. To what he doesn't respond, grabs her blanket and starts suffocating her too. Now before he starts suffocating, he says that her last words were "Daddy, no," and that she was fighting for her life. He said that she gave him more of a fight. This part is just really hard, you guys, because I can't fathom it. Like, I can't even imagine how someone's headspace has to be for them to do that to their own kids. Like, that's his confession, which part doesn't make sense, but due to the autopsies, like, it's evidence that they were indeed suffocated and that they indeed passed away after Shanann. So it kind of makes sense, right? So now that they kind of have his story straight, and it kind of makes sense due to the evidence they have of how Shanann, Bella, and Cece passed away, now they're trying to see if Nicole was involved in any of this. Nicole is asked all kinds of questions, right? And one of them being if she had ever mentioned or insinuated like Shanann and his girls were like on the way of anything, like just keeping them from being happy. And she said never. Like, she would even cut the detective off before he even finished the sentence. She was really quick to answer never. Now, I like to point out that Nicole's dad was present throughout the whole interview. I don't know why he was present. It's not like he was like a lawyer or anything like that. Like, he was a professional. But he was present, and he made sure that the detective didn't ask like leading questions, and if he did, like, he would like tell him right away, like, do not ask leading questions. I can see why. At the same time, it's the way to get the story straight without going around the same damn thing so many times. The detective, you can tell at this point, he's just trying to like, would you involved or not, pretty much. And I'll have you know, there is a lot of things that just don't add up in Nicole's story. That a lot of things that don't make sense in her confession, right? Her interview, her questioning. And it's very evident that Nicole knows a lot more than what she's claiming to know. First, she says that she had only had an affair with him for about 2 months. So Chris met Nicole at his workplace, and it was known that he had an affair going on for about a year. So it was automatically assumed that she had been working there for a year. But in her questioning, it slips out from her to say that she had only been working there for 4 months. And it's in the interview, you guys. It's nothing that is being assumed. It's open to the public. It's on YouTube. It's on wherever you want to find it. It's there, okay? Her full confession is there. It's one long ass questioning, but if you really want to know all the details, like, it's there. And after knowing all these little details that I'm about to share with you that I found out, your first question is going to be, why the hell was she not further investigated? And I'll tell you right now, what is it that saved her from being further investigated? And like I mentioned, one of the questions she was asked is if she knew of Shanann right away having a relationship with Chris, or an affair, not a relationship, affair. If she already knew about Shanann right off the bat, or did she come to find out later on? Like, did he lie to her too? And she says that she knew he had a significant other, but that they were in the middle of a divorce. And they asked her if they knew of the significant other's identity, and she said that she didn't come to find out of Shanann's name until like later on. Because one of the things they were looking into was her search history. In her search history, they found that Nicole Kessinger was actually searching up the name of Shanann and Chris Watts even before she started working into the same company that Chris was. But by the time of Shanann's murder, she had only been working for the company for 4 months. That part itself right there just makes me wonder if even Chris like was the one to like get her in the job, you know what I'm saying? Because it's clear that they had a thing going on already since before she started working in the same company that Chris was. And let me tell you, based on her search history, she looks like one obsessive ass bitch. They asked her if she had been in their house before. First she says like no, but then she says yes a couple of times, but not too long. First she says like 1 time, then she says 2, and then she starts telling of events that happened on another day. So that was like 3 times. And this would happen when Shanann would take trips and stuff like that. And even though it was obvious at this point what was really going on and what had really been happening between them two, like she still tried to play it like, yeah, like I had an affair with them, but like at the same time, like I went into their house once and I saw like their family photo. I just couldn't help but think, why would he want to like give this up? Like there's gotta be a way they can fix their marriage. Like that she even suggested to Chris, like, try to fix your marriage, I'm gonna give you time. Because I guess Shanann and Chris had gone to a trip. They were just visiting Chris's parents, and Nicole had said that she had told Chris that she was gonna give him space, he can try to fix his marriage, blah blah, this and that. But they found that in the same dates that Shanann and Chris were on a trip visiting Chris's parents' house, this bitch was looking up wedding dresses. She was like looking up wedding, and for hours, you guys, for hours. She also had search history of like, oh, married man says that he's gonna leave his wife for me. Do married men leave like their wives for mistress? Do men marry their mistresses? Stuff like that, like stupid stuff like that, okay? And this is a grown-ass woman, you guys. Nicole was already in her 30s, okay? Like this is a grown-ass woman to be asking those kind of questions. I can't imagine myself as a soon-to-be 32-year-old woman to be Googling that kind of stupid stuff. Like, what? It's clear I got beef with Nicole at this point. One thing that I find very, very important to mention and that I think should have honestly been investigated for sure is the fact that Nicole's phone pinged around Shanann's house around 6 something in the morning, okay? By this time, Chris had already disposed of the bodies. The fact that she was supposedly back home, which was known to be more than an hour away from Shanann's home. So it was very highly suspected that Nicole knew more than she admitted to know and that she could possibly be involved. Now, why did they not look more into Nicole and why did they not further investigate this? Did the detectives even know any of this? Yes, they were fully aware that a lot of her story was not adding up. A lot of the things she said were not consistent with her search history. They found a lot of lies to her story. And yes, they did know about her phone pinging very close to Shanann's home around 6 something in the morning after Shanann and the girls' bodies were disposed of. Why did they not look further into this? Remember how Chris got a plea deal? That was part of the plea deal. Part of the plea deal was that they did not further investigate and look into Nicole. So this monster really protected this woman as his last act of love. Where is Nicole now? She completely changed her identity for like the second time to everybody's knowledge, because she had already changed her identity once because apparently she was like in this abusive relationship and she like ran away and she changed her identity for her protection. So it seems like it comes to her pretty easy to be doing this kind of shit. She's under another identity that nobody knows about. Nobody knows about her whereabouts. She literally like fell out of the face of earth. But was known that she was actually writing to Chris for a bit. Now, part of the plea deal was if he confessed, they will no longer fight for the death penalty, but life in prison. And that's what he got. He got life in prison. After After a long time passed, you guys, because he refused all kinds of interviews, by the way. After some time had passed, he had received a letter of a reporter asking him pretty much if he can say exactly what happened. So he did. Obviously, they have an official confession of his, but there's one confession that was written in a letter to this reporter, and it actually makes sense. Like, things actually add up. And in this written confession, he had said that after Shanann was dropped off by her friend after their trip in North Carolina, the same friend that was gonna drive her to her gynecologist appointment, after Shanann was dropped off in the middle of the night, she went to sleep. Chris says that in the morning, he woke up and he went to the girl's room. He took a pillow and he started suffocating both of them. So he suffocated both of them in the room. Okay, remember. Now, I know in the autopsy it shows that the girls died after Shanann, but bear with me, okay? This is what he did, and it's gonna make total sense. So he grabs the pillow and suffocates them in their sleep. He goes back to the room with Shanann, goes into bed, and then Shanann wakes up and they start having an argument, and this is when he tells her that he's having an affair, that, you know, he doesn't love her anymore, this and that. He doesn't really go into detail what was said, but he says that he climbed on Shanann and started strangling her. Her eyes filled with blood, and then she passed away. As soon as she passes away, both little Cece and Bella walk in, and he realizes that they weren't dead after all, and he doesn't know how they woke back up, but they did. And he continues to wrap up Shanann, loads her into the car, takes the girls, and then proceeds to take the girls' life there. It's obvious at this point that this man had premeditated this all along. It's obvious that this man's plan was pretty much to wipe out his current family to begin a new one, because something that he had discussed with Nicole Kessinger is that he had always wanted a boy and that he wanted to have his first boy, but with her. And so when Shanann turned out to be pregnant and they found out it was a boy, he was actually really disappointed because he did want a boy, but not with Shanann, which just breaks my heart because, like, this woman is just so amazing. He literally has everything, I don't know, I think a man can dream of. An amazing, hardworking woman, a beautiful home, beautiful girl, and something he had been wanting, a baby boy on the way. It's just crazy to me. Till this day, Shanann's family and his family they say they don't understand what happened. The only explanation they keep finding is he just snapped, which is crazy how they just, like, you know, oh, he just snapped, you know, like, it's crazy to me. Something that did irritate my existence is watching Chris's mom's interview, because she gave an interview, because of course, and this woman, you guys, is in such denial. She still wants to believe his original story that he didn't do it, and the reason why she's holding on to this hope so much is because they didn't let her talk to him before he pleaded guilty and he confessed. So therefore, because of that, she's trying to make it seem like they, like, pressured him to confess or something like that, that she wanted to talk to him first. I don't know why she thought she could make a difference. Like, what happened, and I think the least thing her little son can do is own up to his own actions. And something important I want to mention is that Chris's mom did not like Shanann. And Shanann did not like Chris's mom. They did not get along at all. You can still see that in her as she talks about Shanann. When they ask her how they met, she says stuff like, oh, well, they met online. It wasn't love at first sight, I don't think. Like, stuff like that. And I didn't like the comments Shanann made about Chris. Like, the comments that she mentioned that Shanann would make were like, stuff like, he looks like a skater boy. He had like a certain haircut or something like that, and Shanann was like, you look like a skater boy. Stuff like that. And his mommy didn't like it, and I guess, like, because his mommy didn't like Shanann's comments, like, she got some kind of animosity towards her. This woman is hurting more for her son than anybody. Like, honestly, like, not even her grandchildren. It's just, it's insane. And it just seems like that's where Chris got his, like, mental instability from, honestly. Chris was described to be just a socially awkward person. She says she never saw any signs that gave her any concern. He was not violent at all. He was not conflictive at all. He was always a calm, very quiet person and very to himself, and again, socially awkward. But she said other than that, she never saw any, like, signs that may suggest that he can be a potential murderer in the future. Chris has now turned into Christianity, and he says that Nicole was a woman of the devil. Pretty much kind of blames her for his actions, kind of, as if she had him, like, blind or hypnotized or something like that. I don't know what this meant, but doesn't matter. I think in the end, the saddest thing is that 4 lives were lost. And I say 4 because little Nico did count. And it's really sad, you guys, because it was found that Shanann had a coffin birth. And if you don't know what a coffin birth is, it's a woman having birth after she is deceased. Because of the gases that are produced in their abdomen while they're decomposing, it just makes the body expel the little fetus, and it's called coffin birth. And it's what they found in the autopsy. It was really sad, honestly. Like, every single detail, like, I can't even I can't even imagine like her mom, just everything she had to endure, all the details. You guys, there's so many details I'm not gonna go into, honestly, because like I mentioned, I don't tend to cover cases with kids because it's a very sensitive subject. But as a parent, I can't even imagine what Shanann's mom went through, knowing every single detail. It's enough to go insane, and just, I can't even imagine the heartbreak. In the end, 4 innocent people lost their lives, and all over lust. To me, it will forever be crazy to think that a man really threw his whole life away, along with the whole family away, and literally wiped out his whole family away for some woman he had just met. Thank you for watching another crime case with me, and until next time, I'll see you guys.